Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is more of my Dark Souls 2 PvP backstep parry practice, a technique that quite recently has been amended so that it doesn't work anymore, to a lot of people's sheer joy. And I must agree, I'm kind of glad it's gone as well. I'm not a big fan of what they've done to the Monastery Scimitar. I didn't think there was too much of a problem with it, but just one look at my comment section tells me that I was probably part of the minority who was in beliefs of that, because everybody seems to think that the Monastery Scimitar was ruining the game. And, you know, I suppose people like to say things like, you know, everyone's entitled to an opinion. Everyone has an opinion, but I think what a lot of people don't realise is just because somebody has an opinion doesn't make it a good one. And I think that's the delusion that a lot of people seem to be under. You know, Hitler had an opinion against the Jews. That wasn't a good opinion. To him, it was a great opinion. To me, not quite so good. And as much as mass genocide of people and Dark Souls 2 PvP don't go necessarily hand in hand, what does... That was a nice parry. What does go is the consensus that just because you have an opinion doesn't make it a good one. So, as much as people love to throw that thing around it like it gives them some sort of immunity, I don't think they have any kind of immunity, because I've met plenty of people with fucking stupid opinions, and I have been guilty of stupid opinions myself, so I think people need to realise that there's an ignorance in thinking your opinion has value when, if you do a course at any kind of school or any kind of academic work, if you begin your essay on "I think" when you're supposed to cite references or people who matter, the first thing your lecturer is going to say is, who gives a fuck what you think? You are nothing to do with the field of, you know, archaeology or history or sociology or whatever. You are a student of it. You've not earned the right to give that opinion. And there's a lot of humility that goes into that, but at the same time, it's going to help people out. This is interesting, because this is a fight which I don't think you can parry the whip, but as soon as he changed to that and goes for the push, which I think that was a mistake on his end, because pushing someone who's not blocking that was a fantastic parry. See, that was a super cool fight. I just get a little bit frustrated because I wish I could fight that person when I'm equipped with stuff I want to use, rather than putting this stuff on to try and do this strange move. Look, you'll notice I've gone back to the other scimitars because I've done it with the Monastery and I want to do it with the other ones, and I haven't yet realised that it's not the same. You know, getting it with these other weapons is really tricky to do. But there's a guy using his shield a little bit too much. There is a guard break that actually worked. I was playing this game yesterday with Aiden. He came around to my house and he's super deep in Dark Souls, and he asked me to invade because he wanted to watch some invasions, and I pretty much said to him, dude, you know, during the day my connection's pretty rough. The connection on this game, regardless of how good your internet is pretty rough too. And chances are it's probably not going to be the best example of what this game can be, because I think he's looking to get into the PvP, and, you know, I didn't want to put him off. So we did some PvP, and I got in a gank in Hyde, at Hyde's tower, and I was using bare fists and my big club backup. And without the Monastery Scimitar, it's a pretty tough class to use. So I guard broke the Phantom and I riposted on him with the big club, and it literally did maybe 1/6 of his life, and I had 60 strength on an S scaling strength weapon. It was just baffling. Like, either he was max level or he had max vitality, or I don't even know what was going on, but it's moments like that when it just makes me super sad. So this is another person who's backstepping quite a lot. He's got a buffed, that looks like a Watcher, the Watcher sword, Throne Watcher, which you'll probably see me use quite a lot. He went for the parry. Right there I thought he was going to block, so I went for the guard break, but he rolled. I should have guessed he was going to roll. I expected a parry attempt just then. See, like this, I'd love to fight players like this all day, because you can see that this person's not just going to try and mash you down. He's looking for spacing, he's looking for timing, he's doing interesting things, he's got offhand weapons. It's a fun fight, but not every fight is like this, and the game wasn't designed for every fight to be like this. And I think that's the most difficult part of the Souls game for me to get. Like, I would love a game like Blade Symphony with the Dark Souls stuff happening, you know, where people aspired to play in interesting competitive matches. Because a lot of people, they might be young, they might be old, it doesn't really matter. I suppose it's one of those things that can happen at any age. All they want to do is win, like it's Call of Duty, you know, destroy people in 2 hits and get that quick win. And that's not to say that I don't want people to be competitive. You know, people throw around the term try hard a lot, which I think if you're not trying hard, why are you trying at all? And I understand the casual approach, but to me, when I play, I always play to win. Even when I'm doing this, when I'm, you know, using silly weapons and trying to do this backstep parry thing, I'm always trying to win because I like to win. But I like a win to mean something. I think there's empty ways of winning, and I think there's impactful ways of winning. But winning is not really on the cards in this moment because I'm trying to see if there's any weight to this technique, and I'm not doing a very good job of it because, as I mentioned, I get quite involved in fighting. But look at that. It's a powerful technique. It really is. But it's one of those things where when somebody shows it off on YouTube, you'd be surprised of how many people start doing it. And I saw Spades show it off, then I saw Cass show it off, and then I saw GameFAQs just light up with it. Because everybody was noticing that people running around with the Monastery Scimitar, and it was this, it's like a viral spread, where it just starts from that epicenter and it spreads out, and you saw it a lot. And as much as I saw it a lot, I only came across about 3 people doing the backstep parry, which I think people must have seen other folks using the scimitar and just put it on themselves to see if it was any good, because, you know, I often say, if it weren't for those phantoms with double Evelynns in the Belfry Tower, do you think anybody would have really figured out that the dual Evelynns were so powerful? I don't think they would have. I think it would have taken significantly longer for anybody to get that technique. You know, it makes me wonder, if they didn't put Havels in this game, what would everybody wear? And that's why I will never understand why they put Havels back in the title. I understand it's a throwback to the last game, but they know themselves that everybody wore it because it was statistically the best piece of armor, and I don't even think it looks any good anymore because I've seen it so damn much. And I think that's a shame, because the first time you see Havel's armor, it's this super cool NPC wearing essentially a mountain on his torso, wielding this giant club. And you're like, that is cool, because you've never seen anybody who looked like that. But if you play Dark Souls for a couple hundred hours, if you get into the PvP, like, you will get so sick of seeing people run around in that lumpy piece of shit that it just has no value anymore. That right there is the power of the resonant weapon on katanas, and I think, did resonant weapon get a bit of a downgrade? Because I know katanas haven't, because they still have ridiculous phantom range, and I honestly don't think that that's the katana's fault. I think that's just the netcode. But that right there was actually a mistake parry. I pressed backstep with the parry animation and it didn't register, so I just did a standard parry. So out of all of this session, that is probably the only legit parry, but even then there are people who just think if you parry with the Monetary Scimitar, it literally takes no skill, and I completely disagree with those people, because you still need to time it. It's just significantly more lenient than it is with the shield or with the other mechanics. And I don't think people realise that the only reason that parrying with the other weapons is tricky is because the parry frames are midway through the animation. If the parry frames were at the beginning of the animation like they were with the Monastery Scimitar, this game would work like Dark Souls 1. And the irony that I've always had with those people and this weapon before it was patched is nobody complained about parries on Dark Souls, yet they do on this game, because only one weapon allowed you to parry like you could in the previous. So it was just that wonderful dissonance that used to occur surrounding the weapon, and that's all gone now because it's dead. It is dead in the water. I tried it the other day. I couldn't even land a parry on a fucking holo, and I have a video of me killing 2 pursuers at the same time doing nothing but parries. It's really sad because I did love that weapon, but I loved it more for PvE than I did PvP, because I prefer to dual wield on this game than I ever do single wield. Like, I don't think I've ever really used the shield that much on this title yet, because all it does is make me play more defensive, and I love playing aggressively. It gets me parried. You know, I lose a lot, but I think it's more exciting. But I had a couple of fights with this guy on this particular session. He seemed like a nice enough dude. But it's one of those things where if you're coming to the arena for fair fights, which I think a lot of people probably do, you're in the wrong place. And it really doesn't make any sense that that's the case. Because there can be any level. It doesn't matter. It's matchmaked purely and simply off of soul memory. And if you're a player who's stuck to soul level 100 and you've played the game a lot, you have a high soul memory, but you don't necessarily have the stats that reflect that. So you can be paired up against somebody who's max level. And for an arena which is essentially, these are formal duels. That's exactly what this is. In the previous game, the arena did not allow healing. It didn't allow items. You could only heal with spells. Yet, in this game, the arena is almost seen as like a joke place. You know, when you watch popular uploaders of Dark Souls 2, or even maybe streamers, I haven't watched many of it because, as I mentioned, I've just not been that interested. Like, all the streamers I used to watch don't play Dark Souls 2. And the reason they don't play Dark Souls 2 is because they don't like it. And the reason they don't like it is because it's not like Dark Souls 1. And I understand that. And there was a part of me when I play this game that I like the fact it's different. But there's also me that can't understand how it is so different when, you know, it's, for all intents and purposes, aside from the people that went with Miyazaki to work on Bloodborne, there's still a lot of, that was a fantastic parry, but I was way too predictable. And that, I didn't appreciate that, but I suppose he really wanted to win. You'll notice, if somebody swaps to an offhand dagger for criticals, they really want to kill you. It's the Dark Souls etiquette for, please die now, thank you. But that's the end of the video, folks. I've broken these up so they're not big 20-minute slogs, just so that I can spread them out a little bit better, and hopefully you don't get too burnt out on it, because the DLC is coming and I'm really excited for that, but the PvP that you're going to be seeing is going to be some pretty old stuff that I had backlogged on my computer. So if you see things that don't work anymore, or you see stuff that's been nerfed, you know that it's footage that I had a ton of when I was really interested in playing PvP, which I just am not now. But who knows, I'm a pretty, you know, mood swippy flippy guy, so I might get back to that, just swing all the way back into it. But thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.